In our 78th season, the Palm Beach Civic Association expands its communication outreach with a state-of-the-art television studio. We call it Studio 33480, the zip code for the beautiful island of Palm Beach. Sponsored by Finley Galleries, our goal is to bring you in-depth interviews with the most colorful and knowledgeable personalities on the island. And now, our host.
Hello and welcome to Studio 33480. I'm Wendy Rutledge. Today we're going to talk about something we have kind of avoided in the past couple of years, maybe dodged a bullet on. I'm talking about hurricanes. And with us today to talk about how to be safe during a hurricane is Assistant Fire Chief Sean Baker. Welcome.
Thank you. How are you, Wendy?
I'm fine. And you?
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, well, one of the things that before we get going with questions, we want to share. In past years, the town has prepared its hurricane special. The Civic Association has prepared another hurricane special. And because of some great wisdom by the town, we are now partnering together. So this year, we're going to merge all of our ideas and sources for one really informative hurricane special, right?
Well said. Absolutely. Absolutely. Our idea is, instead of doing what we've always done in the past, let's try something new, and partnering with the Civic Association is definitely the way to go for us.
Yeah, we feel the same way. So I thought I would break this up into three parts today. Let's first talk about, we're going to talk about preparation for a hurricane. We're going to talk about during a hurricane, and we're going to talk about the aftermath. All right, start with preparation. What is your best advice for planning and preparing for, what's a season that starts very shortly?
Sure. So, the town of Palm Beach, we take tremendous efforts to get ready before the storm comes. We have predetermined checklists and activities that happen before the storm season gets here. Preparing facilities, personnel, so on and so forth. So while we are preparing for that, we ask that the public kind of has the same idea. Get your house ready. Think about when an evacuation notice, when and if an evacuation notice comes through, what are you going to do? Get all of your pre-hurricane checklist items taken care of. And if you don't have those, now's the time to start pulling out those things. Refer to your local agencies and see if you can find a checklist on how to get ready before the storm.
Absolutely. Now we're talking about preparing your home, and we're talking about preparing your plan for evacuation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's one and the same. So when we're talking about a hurricane event coming through the town, you have to imagine that you would not have access to the area for days on end. So when an evacuation order is issued by the county, the areas that are prone to flooding, our barrier island, are mandated that we evacuate. So what does that look like? What does a homeowner who is living up on the north end, what does it look like for them to evacuate and be gone for 3 days? What does that look like for a business? What does that look like for the multifamily condos, right? All those things are specific to, kind of your little area. So you would be able to determine exactly what that looks like.
All right, good point. And of course, we will have access for our viewers to preparedness lists. That'll be on our website and coming up in another segment of hurricane preparation here. All right, so hurricane parties. Oh, gee, I forgot to plan, so right. I don't know where to go. I think I'm going to ride it out, all of those things. Most people obey the mandatory evacuations. A few don't. Talk about that mandatory evacuation, what it means and what the consequences are if you don't.
So mandatory evacuation is made to keep people out of harm's way. And everyone thinks that during the storm is the only time you really have to worry about it. But really, when the storm passes, there has been in cases here in South Florida that people have been without power for weeks on end. Immediately after the storm, the fire department, the police department, public works, we're trying to get back on the island to ensure that the place is safe. Power lines, streets are open, mitigating any emergencies. We cannot have the public there while we're trying to do our job. As a matter of fact, if there's any public that is on the island during the recovery phase, it actually slows down our ability to get the island opened again. So it's a bit of a drain on resources to try and still handle people that are on the island that didn't or could not evacuate, which is why today, as blue skies, we're telling people, make your plan. It's the conditions after a storm passes can be pretty austere, no power, potentially no water, roads could be impassable. So consider being wherever you are right now, staying in that location for up to 3 to 5 days without access to anything.
So, and that is very important. I want to dive into aftermath a little bit more. But so you made a decision, and the decision was, I'm going to ride it out. And then you regret that decision, or you have a catastrophe, a disaster in your home, you hurt yourself or something, and you need EMS. EMS cannot respond in the middle of a hurricane, correct?
That's correct. Once the winds get to above 65 miles an hour sustained, we cannot go out in our vehicles. Our vehicles are high-profile vehicles, and they could flip in high winds. So we would be putting ourselves at great risk to go out to get someone if they are having an emergency. So unfortunately, what that means is when and if the conditions subside within a reasonable amount of time is when we're going to go out to go after you. If we can't, unfortunately, whatever medical emergency, whatever emergency you're facing, you're kind of in a holding pattern until we can safely get to you.
Totally understandable. Before we move to the aftermath, it's everybody knows that we've had an influx of new residents, some of whom have never been through a hurricane. Is there a particular message about learning, preparing, adhering to evacuation orders and so forth that you'd like to share with new folks in town?
Absolutely. So while the people that are coming to the town may be new to hurricane season, Florida, the town of Palm Beach, we are unfortunately old pros at this. It's well documented on what to expect during and after a storm and what to expect before a storm. Your local news agencies, the town of Palm Beach, we have all kind of different materials that would kind of tell you what to expect. The summer thunderstorms that come through here are pretty severe, and we tell people, imagine a summer thunderstorm lasting for hours and hours and hours on end. So as we're starting to get into the warmer months and the thunderstorms are starting to pick up, if you are noticing the intensity of these storms, imagine that multiplied by 10. That is something that we really want you to visualize. And the wind, the flooding, it's not something to scare you. We're not trying to be overly dramatic, but we just want people to be informed. Tune in to the Town of Palm Beach website. Look at the Palm Beach Civic Association. You guys do a great job of informing the community, your local news channels. We all have resources on what to expect, and a prepared and informed public is what we're after. That's our goal.
That is a very good goal. We're in the same spirit with you there.
That's why I'm here.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the aftermath. You spoke a little bit about how your job and the job of fire rescue can be impaired if people are on the island and venturing out too early and so forth. There might be a lot of flooding, standing water, those kinds of issues. Mm-hmm. There may, even though we are undergrounding, there are still some power lines, a lot of knocked down trees, brush, just all kinds of places where people can get hurt.
Right.
Talk to us about that and what we should do to keep ourselves and our families safe.
So when the storm passes, what we're asking residents and visitors to the town to know that it is vitally important to stay in place if you are here on the island, if you didn't heed evacuation orders. That is why the police department sets up roadblocks. They isolate the island and make sure people aren't coming and going as freely. So we are doing everything we can to get everything up and running again for the community. To your point, down power lines, down trees, gas leaks. Some of the hazards that are after a storm are not readily visible to the naked eye.
You were saying that though we're advanced in the sense that a lot of our power and gas are underground, that makes your job a little bit more tricky.
It lends another dynamic to the emergency. Visibly when the power lines are above ground, you can see them. If they're underground, everything should be okay, but it's not visibly readily available for us to see there. So if we can come up and using our tools and our training to determine if the area is safe after a storm, some areas that could be smoking, sparking underground, we need to be able to assess that to make sure everything is good. So while the hazard has gone from above, and we're way more resilient to having it not exposed to wind, for the responders, it adds a different dynamic to the emergency. And then that's yet again another reason why we tell the public, stay away, because as we can assess what's going on in the area, we can make that safe for when the public has access to the area.
And you were mentioning that, say a tree goes down and uproots, this could lift up some of that buried infrastructure. A gas leak could incur or something like that.
Correct. Matter of fact, we see that a lot. Post-storm, some of the trees get ripped up, and if there's a gas line in the vicinity, the expansive roof system can physically pull a gas line up out of the ground. Now, there's check valves or safety things that are built into those piping, but again, as we're assessing damage, Public Works is looking at damage, PZB, they're looking at the infrastructure to make sure everything is okay. Those are the things we're hunting for after the storm has passed. So if a fire rescue gets out and we see a tree that's down, we'll assess the area to make sure that there is no gas leaks. So that's the important part for post-storm response.
Okay, so that may take a couple of days, but you folks are very efficient like that, and we should not get in your way.
Right.
We should allow your process to go forth.
Absolutely. So fire rescue and the police department, we have an immediate goal to make sure everything is safe. But the bulk of the work comes to Public Works. Public Works come through, they're checking our infrastructure, they're doing the heavy lifting with the debris removal, and every extra vehicle that is on the road slows down their process for debris removal and cleaning things up. So that is why we have the different stages of entry for the island, because we're physically controlling the flow of people that are on the island so that we can speed up recovery efforts.
Yeah, you know, everybody's instinct after they've been shut inside for maybe 48 hours is, let me out of here, let me go see the beach and do all this. That's not helping you.
That's not helping us. No. Not at all. Not at all. So again, stay away, stay safe, stay put. Everyone's going to get a little antsy after a potential storm passes, but again, a little patience is all we ask. The good part about all this, as far as the town and the Civic Association is concerned, is we will be sending out alerts often, very often. So you will be in the loop.
You'll get the green light when it's safe.
You absolutely will. You will be notified. You don't have to wait.
We'll talk about it. You'll
Absolutely.
talk about it.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, it will be everywhere. You will have notification that it is safe to go out. It is safe that this area is clear. We will make sure that we advise the public of that.
Well, Chief, thank you for coming in, because I think you have made a very convincing case for all of us to let you do your job. So that we can all be safe, because that's what you do so well. So
that's our role.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And I want to tell everybody that we will be expanding this coverage with partnership with the town. We will be speaking with the police department and particularly focusing on what you need to get back on the island, the identification and so forth, and the timing of it. And we will also be bringing in a very well-known local meteorologist who is not only going to talk about the prediction for this hurricane season, but also some new technology that apparently is going to make all of this prediction much more accurate. So you can look forward to that in the coming weeks. And that wraps it up for us here in Studio 33480. We thank you, as always, for watching, and we will see you next time right here in Studio 33480.
Studio 33480 is brought to you by the Palm Beach Civic Association, our sponsor, Finley Galleries, and our viewers. We welcome your thoughts on how our programming can best serve our members and residents.